If you put the note in the email, I should be able to look at it.
Let's see. Drew Moon, the Vicky. Peace to you. Peace, peace. For everybody that's in here, peace and welcome to Remnants Gathering.
Peace.
I am Ernest.
And I'm Khamsin the Oracle.
And we are
Remnants
Remnants Gathering, aka Widow Gang Gang. Let me see. Okay.
It's been a lot of crazy shit.
Yeah, a lot of glitchy stuff.
But we gonna keep it moving like we do. Thank you for joining us. Just hanging there as we're getting our notes and stuff together. We're talking about sexuality and spirituality tonight. The topic most people really are afraid of. I feel like a lot of people, they're afraid to even go to these places in their minds.
The taboo talk.
Yeah.
Peace, love. So glad to be here with you. My life mosaic. Yeah, peace to you. So glad you're here too. And peace, Yellow Star, Queen of Rise, Lotus Planet, peace. Yeah, mozzarella. That's unique. You're the first. You say I'm the first one. Yeah. So again, y'all see the title, Reconnecting Our Spirituality with Sexuality. This is a huge subject, and one that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I really don't even remember how we got on this topic.
Peace and love, soul healing love. You said you don't remember how we got on?
No. Take us back to that point. What the note? Like what was the? Give me the point, and then I'll channel. Because this is channel information.
Yeah.
So this was coming to me yesterday, and I was just and I couldn't stop, and it was just weaving this web of inaccuracies. It was showing me the web of inaccuracies that we have been using, and so we have been loving in a very pseudo way.
Yeah.
It hasn't been like, now that the awakening is happening, it's just like you're either gonna love like this or you're not gonna love at all. There's no in between no more.
Yeah.
It's no bullshitting. It's no faking it. Shit just really is what it is, and you have to face whatever it is.
That's right.
And then determine what you do from there.
That's right.
But do you remember what started the conversation? Because I just started channeling it.
Yeah, we well, it definitely started because of the episodes that we was watching on the show, and you was pointing out some divine masculine traits and attributes of a healed divine masculine. And if you are new to this channel, when we come on and we talk about relationship stuff, we always talk about it from the divine feminine and divine masculine dance as it relates to our union, as well as it relates to us individually, because we all have that masculine and feminine essence about ourselves. And so with the things that has been going on in the past, we ain't got to put no date on it, but here lately we have been seeing, especially with the energy and the shifts cosmically, what we have been seeing is a lot of abuse. We've been seeing a lot of abuse as it relates to how the masculine is treating the feminine. And so I think that's what started our whole conversation and dialogue as it relates to we even dropped some questions, and we was just kind of questioning the narrative as it relates to religion, as it relates to spirituality, as it relates to the music. And so we were looking at how, and we had the in-depth conversation as it relates to naming your children. And we, I'm a feminist. You know what I'm saying? And that meaning I support my goddesses. I support women as far as them being liberated. Now it's easier said than done because I've come from a background myself of being traumatized from the feminine. And so it's been a work in progress and a work in process with the aid of my goddess and wife and companion to help me to open up and learn how to communicate because I was one that was shut down. And so from that heart space, we talking about being able to be more in your heart, men, instead of being more mind driven and more ego based living. And so it's always that internal struggle. And so that's what really set the ground for us having this discussion and dealing with it. And it just spans from spirituality to sexuality. You can't have one without the other. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's what was a major part that started it.
Yeah, he's telling the story as if he was the good guy in the story.
I know. I'm
Now I'm
not.
gonna tell the story from my perspective.
I wouldn't. I would. Okay, go ahead.
You made it sound real. It sounded smooth and creamy.
No,
It wasn't
that's
quite
the
as spicy as it was. So let me spice it up a little bit.
that's the background, baby.
Let me spice it up a little bit. So we were sitting there talking, and because I'm working with dark goddesses now, dark goddesses are very fucking rebellious. Let's be clear. Any woman dealing with abuse in a relationship, work with dark goddesses.
True.
They come for the head, straight from the ego, like for the ego. You're not even, you're in your heart, but you speak and you say things that cut, and it cut deep, and it reveals how toxic and dysfunctional your cognitive perception is. So we were talking, and we were talking about naming children. And so Ernest, he's becoming a feminist, but there are areas where I'm having to really be patient and work with him to get him comfortable with the feminine energy so that I can have a bigger expression and manifestation of that energy. So ultimately, any man and most men, not any, not all, but most men have some type of trauma, wound trauma. They have some type of trauma with their mothers, right? The culture is very toxic in that way because ultimately, for those of us who were brought over here during the slave trade, when we started mixing with the indigenous people that were already here, we began to water down certain values. And because we were fighting for our lives and getting lynched and just having to be in beast mode 24/7, or you got the other people who work the cotton fields, work the tobacco fields, work to harvest the sugar cane. They're being beat and traumatized and tortured in ways history books can't really even depict to the level of how bad it is. So when you incarnate as a neuromelanated, you melanin being, you incarnate with a power source of pain and chaos that is locked into your cellular DNA. And once you really work with dark goddesses and they begin to open up the subconscious mind and allow the abyss and the void and the demons to seep out. So you go get triggered constantly. You're going to be constantly feeling like you can't get it right. You get triggered, and then you just go on this narrative that you always go on. You can't really get control of your emotions. You can't control your behavior. You feel like you got to be defensive. Everything that happens, it feels like it's really personal. Like, damn, why they look at me like that? I ain't did nothing to it. And they probably didn't even see you, just looked in their direction and didn't even see you. Could have had something on their mind. But when you are in a traumatized state of being and you haven't done the amount of shadow work that's necessary, all of this stuff that's inside of you is just going to be seeping out of you in your day-to-day conversations. So when it happens, I know when it's happening. He don't, but I do.
Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah. And so this is that divine feminine characteristic where you are able to almost bend time and space And your body can sense and feel what's about to happen before it happens. And so when this happens, for me, everything slows down. For him, things get dense and fast, and he Aries
It's
energy,
almost
fire
like
energy.
claustrophobic.
So he goes 0 to 60.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So what was happening was I knew I was having one of those conversations. And we've been in this space where Ernest false self, had been in the driver's seat with a lot of shit. And his ego was in the driver's seat with a lot of shit. Me working with the dark goddesses, they cutting the ego down left and right. And it's like, damn. So it's a lot. It's a lot of transformation that he's having to go through. So I was like, I don't think that women should have to let the fathers name the children. He was like, well, no, they should have input too. They the father. And I was like, okay, but they don't carry the child. They don't have a connection, a spiritual connection with the child. They're not sharing their organ system to allow this being to be created. There is a deep soul connection that a man who was on the outside helped create. 9 times out of 10, that soul connection, you're not going to be able to hear that child say, this is what I want my name to be. See, this happens on a very deep intuition level. See, I've always named my children. A man has never had a right to name my children. A human being that comes through me to enter into this world that I share my all of my space, all of my being with, and that I go through pain to carry. I told him, you should be honored for a woman to be the one to name that child, because you honor her for all she went through to bring that child here. You didn't have to experience any discomfort. You experienced the orgasm, and then you get a child. I was just like, that's the patriarchal thinking. And I know a lot of people in the conscious community probably don't agree with my perspective on this, but it is what it is. I'm the fucking truth. And what I'm saying is the truth. The reason that we're in such a mess in relationships and the family is so dysfunctional, and the way we feel about we having a hard time loving ourselves is because of this trauma that we come through. And so I told Ernest, I was like, I feel trapped. This thing called a relationship, it feels more like a trap, because I'm not able to feel my own feelings how I want to feel them without them being triggering to you, and it make you get defensive. See, the way his toxic energy shows up, it shows up in being defensive, taking everything personal, assuming that I'm trying to hurt him. This is every day, constant, every day. And I'm like, this is your wounded masculine not wanting to surrender to the transformation that's coming through me as the portal. See, when you get with a woman who's connected with her portal space, and she knows who she is, and when she speaks, her words are power and magic. She is a priestess from the time the sun rises until it sets. Until the moon rises and it sets, she's magical in all her being. So now the masculine is going to get exposed. It's going to be constantly feeling naked and vulnerable. It can't hide nothing. It can't lie anymore, because you're dealing with a goddess. See, that's a new level of relationship. And so we're in a space right now where we've been loving in a pseudo-love way, and we're being called to love in a 4D, 5D way, right? We're in that space. So for those of you who, you find yourself really trying to figure out why I'm so guarded and defensive, why am I not open to receive love? A lot of us aren't open to even receive love. He shuts me out because that was his coping mechanism, to pull up an energetic shield and shut out whatever seems to be a threat. So though I'm not really a threat, it's perceived as a threat because he has not cleared the trauma yet.
Right. Yep. So you messed it on up.
What you mean? I just told it like it was.
Yeah, and that's true. That's true.
Because he was upset. When I first started really getting into, no, let me tell you what I feel
Mm-hmm.
as a woman because of what I go through and have been through. No, you don't have the right to name any motherfucking thing that is created by me. This not me being disrespectful. This is me letting you know you are karmically out of balance. Because if you acknowledge me to be the divine, feminine, dominant, incarnate being that I am, and if I have shown you how accurate my intuition is, why would you still have that belief system that because we've been programmed to believe the father has a right to name the baby just as much as the mama do? You have to challenge your beliefs so that you can move and be able to love in a 4D, 5D way. I love very deeply, hard, it's primal, it's raw. He don't ever know what the fuck I'm gonna do. I don't think he ever knows. You don't know what I'm gonna do.
Mm-mm.
I'm very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started healing that divine feminine aspect, so now my masculine then challenges his feminine. And all of this will always be connected to how your relationships were with your mother and father. Did your mama hold you a lot? Did she tell you she loved you a lot? You know, was she there for you when you would hurt yourself? Or was she critical and whooped you a lot and maybe punished you a lot and made you feel like you weren't good enough? You know, what about your dad? Same things. So these dynamics ultimately create the grid
Ego container.
system in
Yeah.
which your ego is contained. And so you're going to just be interacting
Through that.
almost in a way where you don't even have the ability to really connect.
Yeah. And then one of the good points that we pointed out was how the ego wants us to resist communicating to cut off the possibility of intimacy. And so how can you have a conscious relationship or a strong connection if you're not allowing intimacy and true intimacy to be the core? And true intimacy, we understand and know that true intimacy, it starts before the touching and the physical aspect. True intimacy, you know, starts right here. And so dealing with all of that trauma and dealing with all of those layers of defensiveness and coping mechanisms, um, it cuts that off and it blocks that out. And so that has been the ultimate challenge. Me learning how to accept it without being bitter, without being frustrated, without being defensive, and see it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like she stated, a lot of times coming from her, it seems as though it's an attack. And even if it is an attack, if I'm healed, I ain't gotta, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have to be defensive about it. I would just be like, really? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay. And let it roll off and keep on going. You know what I'm saying? That would be the push-pull or the dynamic, you know what I'm saying, as it relates to our relationship. But yeah, I get extremely defensive. And like she say, I do go from 0 to 100 just like that, you know. And truly the shadow work part of it has been the best thing and the only thing that is day by day allowing me to release some of these blockages, release some of these things that hold me captive, hold me arrested internally. And so
Which is why he has been trying to love me on a pseudo frequency, and it has not been reaping him any motherfucking benefits at all. I thought I was broken. I was like, damn, I've really been working on balancing my masculine and feminine, not going into the toxic imbalances, right? I'm not a real emotional woman. I don't be nagging all day long about stuff. I pick and choose. my battles with him. You know, I'm on some real smooth criminal shit. I've been really working on my shadow shit. So yeah, I am definitely, I have the potential to be triggering and to be a threat. But because I'm coming from an empowered space, I don't have to flex on him and flex my muscles on him and try to take advantage of him and try to manipulate him. I just keep the shit so real and genuine. It just is pure form. You know, like you can't do anything when you're working with love in its pure form. That shit will turn you inside out. And so all of this stuff that's inside of you that you haven't been dealing with, because I'm hitting them with them beams like all day, every day. Like love so deep, I'm making you uncomfortable with the truth. I'm loving you so tough that I'm telling you a truth that I know you don't want to hear from the heart space. You know what I'm saying? Love like that when it's concentrated and when your ego still wants to be in control because of the hip hop you've been listening to. And you've been socially engineered, right, by that. Think that program your subconscious mind. You may not be conscious of this, but it's in the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
What about the way you saw your mom and daddy interact? That shit is in your subconscious mind. See, we are in the age now where everything that's inside of the mind is being projected out ever since Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. That's what it's going to be. So any karmic lessons that you have not learned, all of that shit is just projecting out, boom, 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 back to back, because we're having to deal with the shit. Time is speeding up. So we have to learn how to speed up going through our cycles of awakening by paying attention to the way we are triggered, what triggers us, paying attention to what's the connection to the way I grew up, what's the connection to all of these things, even religion. Like I told him, I was like, you don't trust my feminine energy. When I go into that divine feminine energy, you feel like I'm attacking you because you don't trust feminine energy, because you still have issues with distrust with feminine energy. So if you picture the ego, when you get into Carl Jung and a lot of the explanations that he has of the ego, Edward Edinger, James Hillman, these are some of the top transpersonal psychotherapy, analytical great minds who went into the behaviors and linked the behaviors with archetypal energies and how that's created from the wounds that you receive, right? Whether it's abandonment or negligence or abuse. So all of these things weave you into this person that you are. We're so fucking multidimensional, and now that we're not living one life, we're living like dimensional lives at one time, and we're aware that we're fucked up, and we've been fucked up for a long time, and our lineage is real fucked up too, and like you're aware of that, and then you're aware of the societal imbalances that you see, you're aware of that, and then you're aware of the programming from religion. I mean, with religion just telling you, telling a woman basically you can't have sex the way you want to. Lilith, you got the game fucked up. Adam wants you to be a missionary, right? Just listen to the meaning behind this story. So it's just like, wait, this is my body, and this is what I want to do with my body. Adam like, no, you ain't doing that. You see, this is showing the resistance and the dysfunction that we have fell into between the masculine and the feminine.
That's right.
So you listen to the story of Lilith and how she was like, no, I want to have sex in different positions. And so like we're kind of in that space, and it's not just sexual, but it's on every level. Like I want that multi-dimensional love. You got to make me, damn it, I need you to make me feel like quantum entanglement happening when you speak to me. And when you speak to me, you won't get resorts until you bring this type of energy to me, right? It's like demanding and commanding. It's like quantum boundaries. No, I am not going to let you love me in a pseudo fashion and get what the fuck you want. Woo! That's where we at. So even if you're not in a relationship, this is what your higher self is commanding of you, to be with your own self.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not gonna give that pseudo shit to me. No, stop with them affirmations and shit that you don't really believe. Let's work on the fact that you don't believe the affirmation that you're saying. Let's work on that. You can continue to repeat it, but we need to work on the fact that your heart is not even open and receptive to what you're speaking because you're afraid of more responsibility. Because the affirmation that you're speaking, yes, we can do that. It can happen. You want to be great. You want to have a business. You want to be successful. You would like to be the first millionaire, billionaire in your family. Yes, it can all happen. But you're going to have to raise your levels up in the way that you perceive yourself and treat yourself to get there. We're not going to let you get there the shortcut way. You gotta do the shit right. You gotta do it the way it needs to be done. Like for the golden ages to return, we must become golden in the way that we interact with energy, frequency, and vibration, right? And so it was crazy because I didn't know what was happening. I was just like, I'm really not trying to withhold intimacy from you, but everything in me is telling me no. Because your code's not right. You still have a virus where you feel like you own me. He was like, no, I don't feel like that. We was watching a show. If you watch Legacies season 3, thank you for the donation. May they return to you. We never ask for donations. Thank y'all for the donations. Yeah. Like y'all give it sometime and we don't even ask.
Shades of life, thank you.
Thank you. Big deal, that's a big deal. We make a big deal, big pyramid shit. Every time you give a donation, that's big pyramid shit. We're building together. Right?
That's right.
So what happens is, this is the real virus.
Yeah.
Because ultimately what this is about, I told him, if you are uncomfortable with your own darkness, you're not going to be comfortable with mine. I'm owning my shit. Not only am I owning it, but I'm teaching how to tap into it. I'm being accountable. I'm coming on here every week in a very, very public, intimate way and just laying it all out. This is who I am, where I am. This is the process. I'm creating rituals and ceremonies and products for other people to tap into the things that I'm tapping into. So when you begin getting that deep with yourself like that, yes, you get darker in the aspect of you tap into the primordial part of you that is free from what people think. If you want to know how sovereign you really are and how tapped in to every aspect of yourself, this is your masculine and your feminine, where you are integrated one being. You aren't light, you aren't dark, you just fucking are, right? And you realize that there are infinite amounts of ways to express my beingness in this spectrum, but I'm being called to heal my masculine characteristics and feminine characteristics so that I can be in alignment with my divine, authentic self. So when you really get in that energy, all of a sudden you are free from how people are going to think or feel about anything that you do. I'm so fucking free that I will take my clothes off and strip down and take a picture and post it and be like, God damn, look at the glory. just worshiping myself just as I am, right? And that energy is like, that's what brings you back to life. So ultimately this conversation is really about how you have been disconnected from yourself because of your trauma and your generational trauma. That's what it's all about. Yeah. I told Ernest, if you're not confident in your sense of self, then by default, you're going to act like you own me and try to control me in a very slick, secretive way. You're going to be real strategic about how you express that ownership, and, and what takes this deeper, like, how did it really affect us to be told that it was because of a woman that everything got fucked up? How did that really impact us? How did it really impact us watching Disney growing up and always seeing the mother being toxic and abusive and always seeing the biological mother not even being anywhere around? Like, why is that? Because they know if they create womb trauma, if they create trauma to the way your parent maybe just emotionally been dealing with this trauma. And maybe your parent was in fight or flight and just wasn't capable of giving you the love that you really needed. But they took it and weaponized it and created a whole economic system that is supported by our fucking imbalances.
Yeah.
To the point where women didn't even have a right to vote. Women didn't have a right to do a lot of shit just because you was born with a yoni. Like, how did that affect us psychologically?
Man, it had us treating women as though they're property. And it really messed us up so much so that that's the reason why it's such a huge divide and inability to connect. Because see, we can connect on the surface, but once that's not enough, we all disperse in relationships. I'd have been married 2 times before. And so whether it was me, because it was me and because I hadn't dealt with that, I didn't even know how to resolve any of that. And so instead of working through things, again, we disperse. And so we come to realize that a lot of love that we're experiencing is just pseudo love. It just is love based on principles of what we've seen and what we've been taught.
Yeah.
It's not real to the core. It's not unconditional. It's not truly unconditional, because if it was unconditional, then we wouldn't see a lot of separation. We'll see more fighting for relationships, and people will be more apt to talk about it because it's not a shame. It's not a thing. It's not a thing of something that you would want to hide. You will just say, and most of the time, when there is the separation or the breakup, it's always with animosity. It's always with spite. So that further perpetuates this indignation, so to speak, towards the opposite sex. And so again, we as melanated beings, because we have all of these layers of trauma, generationally, experientially, and we don't deal with it, then that's where we are. That's where we get.
So if you get into the Carl Jung archetypes, and we talked about this a lot in the past few videos that we've done, when you get into that, there is something called the Oedipal. It's like the Oedipal syndrome. It's like an Oedipal mentality, where you are an adult child ultimately. And so you got older, but whatever age emotionally, where you experience a certain level of trauma, then you stop emotionally maturing at that age. And so basically, in my words interpretation, the ego is the age of whatever the worst trauma that you were experiencing, or whatever it started to come to a head and really impact you. So that's how old your ego self is.
Adult
And
children.
so when you aren't integrated with the light and dark parts of you, and you have these parts of you that you've repressed because you was shamed about it, and you was told it was wrong, and you was whooped about it, and then on top of that, maybe you went into religion and you repented for desiring a man or desiring a woman, or even for a woman, for example. Like, I used to repent for being attracted to other women. It was crazy, and I would repent for it, and then I'm like, why the fuck, I've never really been religious. So then one day I just sat and asked, I was like, now why the fuck would I repent for something like that? Why would I beg a God sitting up there to say, this is my fucking body, that's what I like, she looked good, and that's just what it is. Why the fuck? And so I had a moment before my awakening really went there. I was like, no, he got me fucked up, whoever this is or he is. I'm not doing this no more. Because what it does is it takes away your sense of self, right?
Yeah.
You feel like something is broken in you or something is wrong with you because you're not fitting into the mold that you were given. This shit is really crazy. This shit is really sick when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so bad that, so what would happen is when he would get
Start living in your
triggered,
false self.
he would get triggered, and then he would start being emotionally abusive to me in a passive aggressive way, you know, and then act like the victim, like I attacked him. And I wouldn't even got upset. I was good until you do it. I was like, hold up. No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
See, what we not going to do is, let me rewind this and tell you exactly what happened. You got triggered, and then you began doing passive aggressive shit, like walking off in the middle of a conversation. That's really rude. Saying he just said some real fucked up shit to me before. And it just happened so quick, and I could tell he's not present. I can tell I'm not dealing with the being,
You dealing
the
with
soul
the
that I know.
baby boy.
I'm dealing with, exactly. So when the wounded masculine ego, wounded inner child show up, it act like a fucking 12-year-old. And so it's not going to seek resolution. It's just seeking to feel safe. So it's either gonna run, it's gonna go into fight or flight.
Right.
You know, and this is based on the memories that's buried in the amygdala. And so you, like, basically the amygdala basically it allows time travel. It like freezes time for you. And so every time something happened, you go back into the amygdala, it gets activated. You can see this on MRIs. It gets activated, it lights up, and it says, oh, you must keep yourself safe, you must defend yourself, right? Yeah. Because feminine energy can't be trusted. Maybe a feminine energy person broke your heart. Maybe your mother, hurt you. Maybe you're right. And so you're frozen time, and that's the only filter that you have to use in perceiving what's happening. So it leads to cognitive distortions. And so you can't even see love. I'll be telling him, I'm like, I know this don't feel good, but this is what love is. This is what love feels like. Love is a level of correction and accountability that puts you in a position where you can't do anything but evolve or fucking just die and stop, and the relationship ends.
That's true.
You know? So this is why we don't see healthy melanated masculine and feminine depicted in movies and TV, and like we create the fucking culture, yet we don't even see what it is that we know is the way things should be and its divine nature. So no, I'm not saying that Ernest should let me do whatever I want to do and not care about how it affects him or anybody else. But what I am saying is that I'm a goddess. I'm not a human woman. And my intuition is so strong that, any decision that I'm making, it is so fucking divine, and what I'm doing and the way magic moves through me and the way that I'm interacting. For you to feel uncomfortable because of a lack of self-esteem or because of some of your trauma, and you feel uncomfortable with allowing my feminine expression to do whatever it is it wants to do, whether it's nude pictures or womb healing. Like I told him, a lot of melanated women, we're supposed to be womb healing on the planet, and we're not. Why aren't we? Because you're either with a man who don't want you being intimate with a woman on any level. He don't give a fuck if it is spiritual, because he's been programmed. He's been programmed to believe that you don't have the right to do that with your body, that you must put yourself in the perimeters that he has created for the way your spirituality expresses itself. See, in the ancient days, there was a womb healing happening in the temples all the time. And not just between men and women, but women and women, men and men, and whatever, because it was an alchemical, ritualistic ceremony for healing of these sexual chakras. It's basically what it is. And so what happens is, when we get unsync with nature the way it's supposed to be, if the woman is the creator, she definitely should be able to make all the decisions for what she does with her body. And like I told him, this is the challenge. The challenge is for the masculine to be able to trust the feminine and however it's showing up, and be like, my love for you is unconditional. If this is the way your spiritual path is taking you, like, baby, like, I love you unconditionally. Let me know what I can do. I want to support you. That is 4D 5D love. That's not the pseudo shit. That is the shit that goes so deep that you don't even know why you so okay with shit that you didn't used to be okay with. It's because you're being liberated in love. And most people are not ready for this. But this is what's happening. This is the transformation that we're going through in this awakening. This is what is creating in us. It's giving us a whole new level of sovereignty and a whole new level of unique individuation. Right?
That is extreme. And I think one of the things right now as it relates to us all going through this trauma, in whether we're single or in relationships, is we have to be willing to experience all of this. It's kind of like, if you wounded in that scab, like you hurt yourself and you cut yourself or something like that, and that scab grows, and you know how when you pull the scab off, you expose the wound, and so it starts back hurting again, and it's real sensitive. That is going to be the experience. It's going to feel you exposed. You know what I'm saying? You're exposing yourself, you exposing your pain, you exposing your trauma, you exposing your darkest secret shit, you know what I'm saying? But that's what it's gonna take to break through. We're not gonna get any breakthroughs until we are willing to just be in that. And for the longest, that was the part that I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this what it is, and through all of the 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, 4 steps forward, 8 steps back, you know what I'm saying? You get to a place to where you do build up some resilience, and you do see some progress, and you realize, you know what, yeah, this is it. I ain't, like we talked about before, nothing is going to change by chance. Nothing is going to change by not doing anything. So we have to be so intentional, just driven to stay the course. But that be the hard part again, because who wants to feel that?
Absolutely.
Nobody don't want to feel that. Nobody don't want to feel that.
No, a lot of us are afraid to feel, period.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that we do is because when you've been traumatized, we have something called post-traumatic slave syndrome as well. Not just PTSD, but there's a generational level of trauma, right? And so, that caused holes to break away and within our soul self, right? Because ultimately, this is what you're doing. You're recalibrating. You're retuning yourself to be fully integrated with the consciousness of your oversoul, your soul self, your higher self. That's what it means to awaken, right? It's to become completely whole and sovereign again in that aspect. And so what happens is when you're compartmentalized like this from the trauma, you have all of these other personalities and stuff, that have their own intention through the subconscious mind. And so they're creating, especially if you're not being mindful. And I tell Ernest, he allowed himself to fall beneath the veil of consciousness. And when he does that, this always happens. This is where the mental plane hacking is happening. When you dive below the veil of consciousness. Right. So, I know I didn't want a typical ceremony with him because I've never felt like a man, like I own you. I've always felt like we're in a relationship. This is a partnership. So we do something called monadic relating, right? We talk to each other. What are your wants, your needs, your desires, your dreams, what you don't like on every level, right? It's an agreement and it's a dance. It's a communion. And so we're just moving with each other like a symphony, right? And learning each other, and we're evolving. And we could evolve and evolve apart. Or we could evolve and evolve closer. But ultimately, when you truly become a god, goddess, you realize that the way that you allow yourself to think, the decisions that you make, the mundane things that you do, if you're not being mindful and intentful about everything that you do, that life is not going to look the way you desire for it to look, right? This is a whole new level of accountability. So you're accountable for all the negative, the good, bad, and the ugly in your life. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. I have no judgment for it. And I'm an alchemist. I'm going to transmute these things in my life, right? You're working on yourself. You're doing this work. So what happens is, this is really the truth. This is why everything is about the yoni when it comes to like portals and protection and procreation. Is mostly, this is why fertility goddesses was worshipped so much. We have Christmas coming up. That is fertility goddess, feminine energy worship, right? And the Christmas tree, that's what it represents. This space, this womb space, the black portal, black hole, this gateway from which conjures a soul to create it into a baby. Yes, I need your semen to do it with, but there was a time where I didn't, right? But as we failed and got more and more divided and ununified and compartmentalized and wounded, right? We've just gotten further and further away from how nature should be. And so this is just my belief right now, is that being in a relationship is really not about, because we talked about this, it's really not about whether or not you're monogamous, or you lean more towards polyamory, or you lean more towards polygamy. And there's so many different ways that you can express your sexuality, your sensuality, the way that you feel led, that you connect with the life force energy that makes you feel good, right? That bring forth the climax, the orgasm. This energy is so sacred on this planet, so they've exploited it so much. A lot of us don't really know what authentic alignment is for our own selves sexually. That's because right. we've avoided that part of us because of the trauma and the programming and everything else. That's a place we've kind of been afraid to really fully explore and go. Right. You know, a lot of people don't even try certain things because they're afraid, because of what they believe. And so that's not having free will, you know. Hang-ups. Right. And so, you know, so just not being able to experience and then see what you gravitate towards and feel okay doing that. And you know, this is the shame and the guilt that we use to try to cause us to think that we treat each other like we control and own each other, treat each other like property and real estate, right? And you know, you got to do this exactly the way I want you to do it, or we can't be together no more. And love is very boundless, right. You know. And so it's like, I don't go out hooking him up with women, but I'm still like, hey babe, I mean, if something ever going on and you're like, I really feel like this is something that I need to do with this woman, and talk to me about it, we'll talk about it, you know, do a ritual around it or something. Let's make it a ceremony then, and let it be sacred and beautiful and meaningful. Like, I'm in that space, and you know, most women be like, girl, hell no, I ain't letting my nigga. And I get it. I used to be like that, but just the more I liberate myself, the more it's just, you know, it's not a big deal. As long as we have a code of ethics and we're sticking to that, then okay, I'm here as your partner. So let's see how love wants, desires to express itself, and then let's see. There will be some parameters, there will be some boundaries, there will, of course, it'll be all of that too.
Yeah, it's not putting a title to it either.
Right. Yeah. Just letting it be what it is, you know?
Because we talked about that, as far as, okay, so when you love so unconditionally, and when you both as partners get to the place of an unconditional love, then the first thing you would think, oh, well, that means that it's an open relationship. And it ain't necessarily that's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
But that's how we like to put labels and compartmentalize things, right. Because you're unintegrated and you right. maybe feel a little uncomfortable right. with whatever fantasy you may think in, or right. you know, with something that turns you on out the blue, and you're like, well, I didn't know that turned. Then you kind of judging it, and you're like, damn, I kind of feel bad that that turns me on, or whatever it is. Like, we have all this shit to be going on, and this pulls you out of that sacred space and pulls you up into your head, so you're not even in your heart no more. So see, they know the power of sexual energy when it's just free and unlimited and unbound. It's like a fucking atomic bomb, right? Right. And we could use that energy to create so many things. Right. But if you got a lot of hang-ups and tie-ups and this and that, then it allows them to source our energy and then fill us up with negative shit, more toxic shit.
Right. Right.
Because energetically, the laws of the universe, like, oh, okay, the toxic shit, that's what you, all right, that's what you with. It's just going to send you more of that. You know? And so the goal is to really have free will. Like, to really have free will, to really be like, I allow you to have free will.
And I allow you to have free will.
And then you probably won't even never want to step out and do anything.
But and see, we talked about this, and I have even had this conversation with other guys. that's the hard part to grasp, because sometimes conversations just need to be had for the sake of true deep communication.
Mm-hmm.
It don't mean that when you visit these ideas and these, and when you visit this stuff, that it has to be, oh, the most extreme. No, it's you communicating and understanding how the other person feel, how you feel, because we all still learning ourselves. Each and every day we learning ourselves. It's not to the point to where you just know yourself and you know everything about yourself, because the more and more you go in, that's how you learn yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And look at how much of our existence is based on surface dwelling. You know what I'm saying? If you working, if you interacting with people, you know what I'm saying? Most of everything is a routine that subconsciously is just a routine of the same stuff day in and day out. And so only if you seeking within are you really learning more about yourself.
Yeah.
And so as you're learning more about yourself, like she said, you're evolving. And so either you're going to evolve to the place to where you like what you're learning about yourself, or you're going to evolve to the place to where you don't even like it.
Yeah.
And so what love is just being unconditional and having that container of boundlessness to where as you're learning yourself, I'm in acceptance, because when we think about what love is, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Love is not limited. Love is not holding you to my standards. Love is not saying that this is the standard.
Yeah.
Love is just open. Love is
Yeah.
full. And so, man, as it relates to, again, experiencing these things, the only way that we'll see changes within our culture, as it relates to love and relationships, is if we first start seeking ourselves, but let alone being able to be willing to face these challenges with somebody else. So
Yeah.
if you desire to be in a relationship, just be open to facing these hard ass challenges,
Mm-hmm.
as they learning the deep secrets within their self, and you learning the deep secrets within yourself, the shit that you done suppressed, the things that been repressed, all of the hidden aspects. As we learning it, we just have to be open to not be like, I can't deal with this shit. And then you out, because guess what? You might leave that situation and go to another situation down the line, and then you still gonna be faced with some more stuff
Mm-hmm.
that you gotta deal with, that you're still learning how to embrace and hold space for somebody else.
This this conversation is triggering within itself because of
Oh
the
yeah.
psychological impacts
Yeah.
of everything that we've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So this is ultimately, to me, the greatest alchemy is of the masculine and feminine being in communion with one another in a way that is boundless, and not trying to control
Right.
the evolution of that divine dance.
That's right.
The feeling is when you really get the feeling is so good. You're like, damn, why was I running from this level of love?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it wasn't beneficial to me, it wouldn't feel good to me, and I wouldn't be afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that we're afraid of, like vulnerability for a lot of us, is the exact thing that you need to do,
That's right.
so that you can learn yourself,
That's right.
and so that you can train your mind to be in alignment with your heart. That's ultimately what this really is about. And so George Orwell, he talked about how one of the other things that they wanted to do for the purpose of these agendas on humanity was to kill the orgasm. And if you really think about that,
Look at
like
what they
that's
doing.
what they did in Genesis with the story of Adam and Eve. It was like killing the orgasm. The serpent is wisdom. That's enlightenment, right? And the fig leaves were put over the parts of their bodies where you co-create, right? And procreate and create bliss. And that was the part they were ashamed about, right? So that was letting you know that that was like some Kundalini, sexual, tantric energy, something that happened, and
Right.
it awakened them and opened up their
Enlighten them.
crown chakra, and they realized that they were God, goddess. So they tried to kill the orgasm with religion. And it somehow survived. It's still difficult for a lot of people. This is a very common thing. Our sexual health within our relationships is usually unbalanced. It's either too much or not enough. It's just, it's no harmony. It's no real balance. And so what happened was we are so afraid to be rejected, to be hurt, to be abandoned, to feel based on our past experiences, and we're just living in repetition of those experiences and reaffirming those experiences by being triggered in the same way we always are triggered, right? Every time you respond the same way you used to, you're reaffirming the stuff that you are wanting to let go of because it no longer serves you, and you're just making it stronger, right? But even though you dislike it, but you just keep doing stuff that's perpetuating the same outcomes. So you have to be surrendered to the dark goddess energy, which brings a transformation. And this is why dark goddesses have been forbidden so much in all demonology, all religion, all ages, because there is a source of power that is there that we can access once we have that unity within ourselves. So fucking powerful. And it is my personal belief that a lot of women were supposed to have healing temples. But they exploited it and turned it into brothels and this and that and weaponized it and then said this is illegal. And so like for some women, there's a thing called sapism. And that's when women heal each other's womb by connecting each other's womb and allowing that energy current of creation to flow through them, so that the other woman's womb and whatever blockages or energetic imprint she has, that can be banished from her womb space. Like there are spiritual tantric practices of healing where you tether with someone else and go into their body energetically and heal, right? So then they put this subconscious program. We can't be having them doing that. We're gonna lose control. We got to make sure that we control every fucking thing in the lives of these so-called humans, right?
Because that's gonna liberate us.
Exactly. Yeah. So they like, let's make that shit illegal. Let's say that it's prostitution and it's a sin and it's this and this and this and this and this, and the program is so strong. But then hip hop come out and they like, yeah, celebrating that they woman got another woman on the side and yada yada yada. So again, they
taking energy from kids.
They took it and weaponized it. They take the stuff that is meant to be sacred and spiritual, and that it expresses itself in a sexual manner. And they reverse engineer it to do the opposite. Yeah. You see? So, like I told Ernest, most men deal with that. They feel like they own their women. And that a lot of that came from slavery. Yeah. We even treat our kids like we own them. Like they're an item that we went and purchased. And so this remote needs to do exactly what I want it to do. This TV, if I want to change to this channel, your ass needs to be good. Channel 2, your ass better be good. You're going to get your ass whooped and get punished. It's just like it's just suffocating souls being able to express themselves. That's ultimately what this is about. Yeah. So yes, the orgasm is being killed for sure. That's that more so. If you really look at that, that's the Kundalini energy being shut down. And so I believe with the vaccinations and all of that, one side effect they haven't talked about is that if we're struggling with intimacy issues just from our trauma, can you imagine having engineering from an AI interface, linking
A
you to a
program,
hive mind
basically.
with
Yeah.
codes to control the things in your
Thinking.
environment and the
Yeah.
way that you react to them, where you don't have
Yeah.
any free will at all. They can just put you on a frequency where you're just not gonna even want to have sex anymore. Just the trauma and pain alone, sometimes you go through seasons like that. So imagine I'm putting this on. So this is why I got the screenshots. Go back and watch the video that I did talking about C19 and this whole thing. I talked about that. But another layer of wanting to stop us from procreating is wanting to stop us from having orgasms, because Kundalini energy ultimately can be
It's
used
enlightenment,
to destroy everything
empowerment.
that they're doing.
That's right. That's right. It definitely is how we tap into our higher spiritual being, our higher self. And so to block that, to it's all types of divisions. It's all types of divisive measures that they use as it relates to sexuality, as it relates to spirituality. And so that's why we have to heal and come back into ourselves and come back into union with the masculine and the feminine. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, this is a conversation that can go on and on, because the more that we discover these different layers and these imbalances in the way love expresses itself, you begin to see that this AI stuff and transhumanism, like, is not new. We our consciousness has been cloned over and over again, where we don't have the
Yeah.
ability to connect with heart and soul and see what is the journey for me. It may be a journey or a form of expression that's not acceptable or okay, based on your upbringing or your family or whatever. It may or may not be. But I mean, ultimately, we're at a point where, like, who the fuck can really tell another soul what it's supposed to experience to get to its next level?
And
That's terrible.
that's so true. And the thing that we see now, right, is the fact that they're trying to write what is going to be the way moving forward. Oh, there's a mandate that you gotta have this and you gotta have it, whether it's what we're feeling and what's resonating with us or not. They saying this is what you got to do. This is how it's gonna be. This is how the society is moving and changing. We got to get into a meta verse. You know what I'm
So
saying?
fuck intimacy.
Right.
We'll give you a meta bitch.
Right. Or
We'll give you a meta nigga,
you can go buy your iRobot.
and you just
And you don't
go
even have
into a
to tap
virtual
in.
reality with them. You can be laying right beside your spouse, and y'all ain't gonna be having no deep soulful connections and conversations and shit. We got y'all in the frequency so good. So yeah, you can have intimacy, but it's got to be pseudo and artificial intimacy. It's got to be
Definitely.
AI,
Definitely.
artificial intimacy.
Right.
It's
Shit crazy.
this is why OnlyFans and stuff is so big now, because people are more comfortable with being able to feed and feel and experience the sexual energy without having to have alignment, responsibility, accountability, having to show up in
That's
an
it.
honorable way.
That's
They
it.
want it to just be an energy that you just use and abuse, and there's no intent behind it. So you just having orgasms and shit and releasing all of this fucking energy just to go off into the ether, so they can swipe that shit and use it for their agenda to keep your ass in spiritual concentration camps. So it just perpetuates itself in a cycle. And that's why the most brave thing that you can do is confront your fear of intimacy and challenge yourself to be more intimate, hug more, touch more, challenge yourself to be like that. It don't have to be just with another person. It could be with your kids. Like, do it more with yourself, feel more, be sensual, taste things slowly, put oil on your body sometimes slowly, take your time and try to taste everything that's in whatever you're eating and feel the texture and roll it around your mouth and just make everything be about feeling and coming online. This is why the vagus nerve is so unbalanced. If you research the vagus nerve, you will see it's millions and millions and millions of videos explaining the imbalances, and some of the imbalances is related to intimacy. authenticity and your ability to be vulnerable and to make real connections instead of being enmeshed. You're in a relationship, but it's just really because of your trauma that y'all got a bond. So that's trauma enmeshment. That's trauma bonding. And so this is what our relationships have been. It was pseudo.
Yep. Trauma bonding.
And so now it's like, no, that shit gotta be real. You woke up.
When
so,
it
but
start
we're gonna
getting
create
real.
a metaverse. We're gonna create a metaverse though. If you don't want it to be real, it don't have to be. We're giving you another option. Right? And so furthermore, you don't know how to interact with humans anymore because you're just on your phones, your devices, in the metaverse, virtual reality. And so there is no mirror to hold you accountable because whoever you're dealing with on the other end in that simulation that they're giving you, how the fuck we go to a 4D energy and we get awakened to 4D, 5D energy, and then they create a fucking 3D metaverse for us to go into and be able to do the things we can't do in real life. Maybe you is a certain body shape that you want to have. Well, you can create and go in the metaverse and feel what it feels like to be in this body. Like this some real fucked up shit to just make us not have a sense of self and to make us be more spread out, divided, and compartmentalized and unintegrated. Where people just go be fake as hell. And so what happens? You go into this energy and then again, your consciousness get hacked. You don't have free will and you got all these fucking beliefs and you ain't even never asked yourself, is this belief me?
Right.
Is this really how I feel? You have to ask yourself. And some of your beliefs may change, but this is the ability for us to fight this war on consciousness by not allowing ourselves to be cloned consciousness. So when you get triggered, I'm telling you, I be on his ass. Like, no, we not doing that 3D shit that you doing right now. I got a word for it when he go there and because he go into that mental plane and he gets stuck. And so I have to, if I can't pull him out and energetically it's draining me because I'm an empath, well, then I have to put the boundaries up and be like, I'm not having this conversation with you anymore. Pause. And I need you to respect that. And then once he calmed down, then we can revisit the conversation and work it out. And this is that deeper intimacy, that deeper relating where you're having to be able to do that. And sometimes I need to slow down. Sometimes I need to speed up. Sometimes I need to stop him. Sometimes he needs to speed up. It's not safe to be. It's like walking on a tightrope. We can't be up there just doing shit.
Right.
We're recreating a new consciousness, a new frequency on the planet. So we have to be very intentional and conscious and mindful about everything that we do. And that feels a little bit like a burden when you really hear it and when you really start getting held accountable by the universe to do it. It feels heavy and it feels like a burden and it can feel overwhelming sometimes, and that's when you just need to pull back, surrender, revitalize, do whatever you got to do to refresh yourself, do your spiritual baths. Be like, you know what? I really need to detox. I really need to focus on detoxing my emotional body because I've just been in a not healthy space, right? So babe, this is where I am. I want to be detoxing from that negativity that I've been getting in. And I'm like, okay, babe, I got you. I'm gonna hold you accountable.
Right.
Right. So this is we can't live automated anymore.
Right.
Because if you choose to be idle-minded and automated, then that archonic energy is going to hack into your trauma and your amygdala, right? Remember in the Matrix, they would plug into the amygdala in the movie Matrix. And that's because that's where everything is stored. That's where all the data is based on how things affected your emotions, right? And they want us to feel nothing.
That's right.
They want us to be afraid to feel.
Actually, they want us to stay stuck in our internal compartments. And we had talked about that, and I just, what I'm saying, all of us have these internal compartments within, and basically that's all of our experience that store our emotions, our memories, and patterns attached to our definition and knowledge of what it means to love. And so these are a total of all of our life experiences and past life experiences. And so we have to learn how to identify that and begin to break out of it. Break out of the internal compartments and what is binding us. We talked about what binds us in relationships, and that's what led us to asking these questions as it related to how I had been suppressing Cam and how unintentionally, but on a subconscious level, it had been a form of control. And so that's the reason why we're talking about what we're talking about as far as spirituality with sexuality and how we have to reconnect it and bring it back all to the forefront. But it's been so enlightening for me. It really has. And the reason why we sharing this like this is because we know that this is what is going to help change us all, because all of us are going through all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is okay, so this is what's happening. Make sure you're looking at things on the spiritual level. So
Right.
once the soul this is collective unconscious, the collective unconscious have dealt with a whole lot of suppression and repression for a really long time. And now that abyss is opening, right? And it's purging itself and coming to the surface on every level: government, state, political, health, food, us, on every level, all the way down to the cellular level. This warfare is going on, right? So when you really look at that collective shadow, right? And that alchemy is being called to happen because we're in the age of Aquarius. We're in this awakening energy. This is very mental, intellectual, intelligent energy that is causing us to transform and change. And so in order to do that, we need to be more open to new experiences. And so with new experiences, then it comes more wisdom, right? And if you don't do nothing but just learn something deeper about yourself and the experience, well, that ultimately is going to help heal everything and create the new frequency in which we can exist. As we're exiting from this life into the next, we won't have to be forced reincarnated to come back into the 3D world. Our soul's evolution will be able to move in the way that it is supposed to. And so what we have happening, this is why you're hearing so much about, I don't know if y'all heard about the baby, and he put his woman out, his baby mom